Hello, and this is our third full day in Paris. We woke up very early today in order to get to Versailles. So we had to take two different RER trains to get over there. The weather was not on our side today. It was so cold and cloudy the whole day, even though it was supposed to get sunny and it was supposed to be warm, but it just wasn't, and we were not appropriately dressed for this kind of weather. But even through this all, Versailles, you could just tell, was so magnificent and so opulent. We had tickets for the earliest time slot, of course, at 9 a.m. And Mom even splurged on the luxury of getting us audio guides. So we were able to truly immerse ourselves in the history of Versailles and really get to learn about the background of the French kings that came to claim this place as their residence, as well as just the expansions and modifications of the palace through the ages. So the first few rooms that we went through were all these kind of museum style rooms where we got to learn about the different artworks and the history of Versailles. It's really interesting to get to learn things that I feel like I haven't heard since I took AP Euro, actually years ago at this point, like 6 years ago. And then we began moving into the staterooms, which were incredibly impressive, and those on the king's side were all named after Roman gods, and the paintings on the ceiling and the decorations in the room would reflect that of the god which the room represented. The ceilings were all absolutely incredible and what was really designed to grab your attention. So really interesting to get to see all these different works of art, but also my neck hurts so bad always having to look up at the ceiling. Else, I really enjoyed these rooms. I wish there was a bit more furniture. The audio guide leaned very heavily into explaining the art, and obviously while I think the art here is super important, I also like getting to see the staterooms as they used to be, and there just wasn't a lot of decoration or stuff going on besides those paintings. Then, of course, we moved into the iconic Hall of Mirrors, which I think did live up to the hype. It was gorgeous. The ceiling paintings were incredible, and just the sheer size and grandeur of the room was really incredible to see. Also, you could really start getting a feel for how large the gardens were here by looking out onto the estate, but this room just radiated wealth. It was super fascinating to get to see a place where so much history had occurred, including the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in this room. Then we moved on to the Queen's Suite on this side. I absolutely loved this room and the decoration in it. And then we moved through the staterooms on this side. After finishing the Queen's stateroom, we moved on to the giant hall, which has been converted into a series of historical paintings. So first we started in the Napoleon room. These were giant paintings depicting the successes of Napoleon, of course. And then we moved on to other rooms depicting generals, including Lafayette, which was really cool to see. This chamber with staircase was also absolutely gorgeous. Then we moved on to the main hall, which has over 30 paintings of important battles in French history. the audio guide covered some of these, but it was really incredible to see the amount of detail in each painting and get to learn a little more backstory of the Franco power over Europe. Finally, we moved on to the statue hall, where there were statues of important religious, scientific, mathematical figures and such. On the bottom floor, there were a series of rooms dedicated to the Napoleonic Wars. Every single room was a different year, detailing the successes and triumphs of Napoleon. At this point, we were getting tired of all these rooms, so we walked through these ones super fast, but it was still cool to see all the different paintings depicting Napoleon and his great military victories over Europe, of course. And then we moved back through another statue hall and headed out to the gardens. So the gardens are obviously absolutely huge. Again, the weather was not fab and we were all really cold, so we were headed down away from the palace. The fountains were really cool to see, but because there weren't a lot of flowers, we weren't absolutely blown away. After heading through one of the main parts of the Versailles Gardens, we headed outside to get to the Grand Trianon, which was, the Trianons were a series of buildings, like a 30-minute walk from the actual Versailles Palace, that also had been almost like a vacation home for the royals who were here. Napoleon also temporarily lived in this building, as did Marie Antoinette when she didn't want to be with her husband, and other famous figures had occupied these buildings. So this was the Grand Trianon, the bigger of the two Trianons. What makes it unique is its pink marble, which is absolutely gorgeous. I don't think I've ever seen a building that uses this much pink marble before. And of course, the Grand Trianon looks over its own very, very well manicured gardens. Inside the next section of the Grand Trianon, they were having an exhibit on the different kinds of silks that were used in these estates, which was really interesting. And as we moved into the suites where Napoleon lived and other famous historical figures did, you could see these different silks being used on the wall hangings, on the bed sheets, on the chairs, and just everywhere, really. After the Grand Trianon, we headed over to the Petite Trianon, which was a lot more cozy and, in my opinion, the absolute perfect size if I was rich and wanted to have a nice home to live in. It was just very well designed and felt very homey. We went and looked around the upstairs first. There was definitely still that sense of opulence and richness, but a lot more toned down, a lot more relaxed, and not as stuffy as Versailles had been. After walking around the Petite Trianon, we headed out into the gardens. It was getting a little bit warmer, so that was nice, but it was still a bit cold. And these gardens ended up being my absolute favorite part of the day, just because of how unique and vast they were. Marie Antoinette was the one who really was in control of the Petite Trianon and its estate and just developing parts of it. And she had really good taste. There was actually so much character to these gardens, unlike the ones at Versailles. Lots of cute little flowers and cute little hidden paths, which made it really fun to explore these gardens. The best part of the gardens ended up being this little hamlet area where Marie Antoinette had created her own little escape from reality, and it felt like a cozy little farm town. Of course, I wanted to go see all the adorable little farm animals, which are all still here. So there were bunnies, sheep, goats, chickens, ducks, even pigs. And it was just so cute getting to take a break from all the art and history and just hang out with these adorable little animals. After finishing our tour of the Trianons, we headed back to the Garden of Versailles. We had only walked through the middle, so we wanted to get a feel for some of the side gardens as well. They were beautiful, but I wasn't absolutely blown away like I thought it was gonna be. Marie Antoinette's gardens definitely had more taste. We finished at Versailles and it was around 3 p.m. already, so we had spent about 6 hours here, and we took the RER back to the center of Paris, got another glimpse of the Eiffel Tower. It wasn't as beautiful today for whatever reason from the bottom because of the sky, but when we got farther away to the Trocadero, it again was absolutely incredible. We then went to the City Museum of Architecture. One of the really big exhibits was documenting the Notre Dame fire, of course, and how the city and architects are going around refurbishing it. So it was really interesting getting to see different parts of the cathedral and also learn more about the refurbishment. Upstairs, there was an incredible view of the Eiffel Tower, and this section was dedicated more to modern architecture, especially around France, such as the construction of the Eiffel Tower. There was a really cool temporary exhibit on the football stadiums of France and just other skyscrapers and the such in France. Then we headed to another temporary exhibit which documented murals that had been copied or preserved from older buildings. After the Architecture Museum, we took the metro over to the Arc de Triomphe. Again, just an absolute marvel and so incredible to actually get to see this in person. It's Victory Day in Europe, so there was a big celebration going on, and getting to see the giant France flag being hung there was so cool. But we went up and climbed the Arc de Triomphe, and it was just such an incredible view of the city. You could really get a good sense of the city layout and see so many different landmarks. It was so fun to get to people watch up here and also see all the spots that we had visited. For instance, that's the Louvre Museum, which you could still tell was massive even from this distance away. Then we headed down and decided to walk down the Champs-Élysées, which is obviously the most famous street in Paris. It was lined with iconic stores. Of course, we passed by the Louis V flagship store of Paris, just so busy and bustling, and I love always walking down the busy shopping streets of Europe. They feel so different from America and just so cool to see. That was our day.